Dawson23 here, and today's video is going to be on the new Jack Wolf Backwoods fixed EDC. This is a design collab with Melissa Backwoods Miller herself. She was on Naked and Afraid, and she's a very avid outdoors girl. And now she has designed a EDC fixed blade. The Backwoods will be dropping on December 12th, 2025 at all the dealers Jack Wolf is sold at. This is a very compact EDC fixed blade at 6 inches overall. It has a 2.98 inch clip point blade, so this is going to be legal in a lot of areas, especially any areas with 3 and under blade laws. Your blade steel on this one is CPM S90V, so it should have excellent edge retention. I love S90V. It takes a very aggressive edge if you leave it toothy, and it holds an edge for quite some time. The S90V is hardened from 60 to 61 HRC. This particular version has a belt satin finish on your primary and your top swedge, and a horizontal brushed satin on your flats. Nice contrast there. No jimping up top. That's something I would have liked to see, but what can I do? Even though this is a clip point, it's still going to be a fairly versatile clip point because you can see how low that tip is. That means that belly's not going to be too crazy, and it's a smaller fixed blade, so I can get right down onto that tip without going up too high to do a drag cut. It's going to be great at piercing, and of course it's going to be great at slicing downward onto a flat cutting surface. In-hand cuts are still going to be good because you still have quite a bit of straight edge right here to cut in hand. We'll test all that out in just a minute. You have a well-executed sharpening choil. You're going to be able to sharpen all the way to right here before it'll start to thicken up on you. So that's going to be pretty much the life of this knife because you're not going to have too much grind left of that primary bevel. This tip will definitely be good at piercing. You have that swedge that comes down to thin it out some. And even though you had that swedge, if you look at it, so really if I feel it, it's still a fairly stout tip that they thinned out a little bit with that top swedge. Your blade stock thickness on this one is coming in at 0.12 inches, and you have a low, shallow, hollow grind there that they still managed to get down to around 16 thousandths at the thinnest portion. So as long as it's sharp, it should still be a great slicer. Why don't we find out? The knife came with a good edge out of box, and one thing that I love about Ben Belkin of Jack Wolf is that even a blade shape like that, like a clip point, not really my cup of tea lately, because they usually have too much belly and you can't really use a tip. Well, Ben does a good job of keeping even a clip point versatile, and it's not even a straight clip. He does a good job of keeping that tip low. So I still should be able to use that tip to do a drag cut or something. We'll find that out in just a little bit. But so far, doing well. Now, this isn't the sliciest Jack Wolf because it's got a short grind height to it. But it's gonna get the job done. It's still thin at the apex. Now, you'll see me kind of readjusting. Part of that's the wood. There's a knot right there at the top. Didn't even realize it till the end. But, you know, when you try to get a lot of force or pressure into wood like this, and you got thinner scales, and I just have a 4-finger grip on it, it's going to take a little bit of maneuvering. It can be done, but, you know, I don't really think it's intended for that kind of stuff. It's just a day-to-day EDC test type of fixed blade. That belly's going to be perfect, though, on cutting down like that onto a flat cutting surface. The knife has decent bite to it, and it's doing well. But once again, I'm just struggling a little bit just because you don't have a lot of handle to grab onto or thickness. You know, one or the other. It just makes it a little bit awkward whenever you're cutting down with a lot of force or pressure like you do whenever you're cutting sisal rope. Yeah, once I got the spot where it was most comfortable in the different grips, it got a lot easier. But you know, like I said earlier, being that this is a clip point, you got a much lower grind height, you're gonna get to full thickness at about midpoint of the blade, almost to the middle. So, you know, it's not going to be as slicey as, you know, the Jack Wolf folders and slip joints that have the higher hollow grinds to them, because they're able to get down even thinner than this one. But you're not going to notice that too much maybe whenever you start doing denser materials like we do in a little bit. But as you can see there, I'm still able to do that drag cut with the tip, and that's not something that's always easy to do with a clip point because the tip usually sits really high up. But that wasn't the case here. It finished out strong. Like I said, I did notice a little bit of drag on the thicker tubing. Not the biggest deal in the world. You know, like I said, I think it's just intended as a average day-to-day EDC task type of knife, not a work fixed blade. But I was happy with it, and it was fun to test. And when it comes to carry, that's one thing I love about these Jack Wolf EDC fixed blades. The sheath is very, very slim, minimal, and almost completely disappears in the pocket. This is not a long shirt whatsoever. They carry really well. You don't even notice they're there because they're so slim in that manner. So if you're ever wanting to try out an EDC fixed blade, something like this makes it very easy to carry. You can see that, very slender. You know, sometimes when you have leather pocket sheaths, it can be very bulky, but they do a great job of keeping it fairly thin while still having some decent thickness to that leather. I'm wearing my lightweight shorts. These shorts have like these side pockets there. If I wanted to, just to drop it in there real quick, I could do that also. Sometimes, not so much with these, but sometimes I'll just slide it in my back pocket. It usually stays in there fairly well. So, you know, there's a lot of different options, or if you're just not feeling the leather sheath, you could always get a Kydex made for it. You hardly notice this is even in the pocket because this whole entire package right here is lighter than most of my EDC knives, coming in at 3.7 ounces, and the weight on just the knife alone is 2.1 ounces. So an absolute featherweight. And when it came to the ergos on this one, when we're testing in the wood, it's comfortable. You know, you got contouring on those scales. There's no sharp areas whatsoever. But if you're planning on making a bunch of feather sticks or something with this one, it's going to fatigue your wrists and forearms rather quickly because the scales aren't super thick. But you can still get all your day-to-day EDC stuff. Just, I wouldn't put it in a work roll where you're going to be, you know, light prying, or you'll be marathon cutting for 30 minutes or something. No matter which grip you hold this in, being that it's a neutral handle, you know, this reverse pull grip's comfortable. If you need to do a pinch grip, come around something, even if you need to clean small game or something, you got that belly, you got the tip. And I can easily get the tip down, come around something. And if I wanted to, I could do the reverse gas station knife fight grip. However, this is a small fixed blade. I would never do that unless maybe I was sticking it into a log to make a feather stick. That's always an option so you don't fatigue your wrists or your forearms. Your scale covers on this particular one is sunset orange camo carbon, held with T8 titanium screws there. You have a dark blasted titanium bolster. It's pretty much an integral scale right there. Single fluted on both sides. No voids that I've found in the carbon fiber. Everything's perfectly mated up, flush. You can see the top two perfectly mated up. And you can also tell, you know, there's some hand finishing that goes into these. Your lanyard is at the butt right here at the bottom. That's the perfect place for it. So if you do need it, say if you need to tie a thicker knot to it because you have XL hands or large hands and you need to grab a hold of something, that's perfect. I love the way he does that because you can put a little thick knot right here and it can give you a little bit more extension to hold on to. They come with a snake knot paracord lanyard with a geared titanium bead there, the same color as the blasting on the bolster, at least for me. Now time for some quick size comparisons. Next to two other Jack Wolf fixed EDCs, the Backwoods is a hair longer than both the Vampire fixed EDC and the Midnight fixed EDC from Jack Wolf. And it's shorter than the Jack Wolf Collusion, and it's just a hair shorter than the Jack Wolf Little Bro. However, it has a bigger blade than the Little Bro. It's the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. And lastly, it's a little smaller than the Essie Azula, and it's identical in length to the Kaiser Drop Bear fixed blade. Now, since no knife's perfect, what are my nitpicks, complaints on this one? These are all very minor nitpicks, definitely not deal breakers for me, but it'd be nice to have some fine cut jimping. That way I could have a little bit added control. That's something I really enjoy in my fixed blades. Another thing that I love is thicker scales. I always prefer 0.6 or bigger. That way it's going to fill out your hand a lot better, especially when they're contoured. They'll feel a lot more secure. Better do harder cuts. I don't think the intended purpose for this one is definitely not a hard use fixed blade. In my opinion, it's to do the day-to-day EDC things you would be doing with a folder of this size. And I think it would have been nice to have about another 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch handle. That way it fits more people's hands. With all that said, what are my final thoughts on the Jack Wolf Knives Backwood Fixed EDC? Like I said during the testing, I'm not really a huge clip point fan. I prefer a very versatile blade shape. However, Ben does a great job of trying to keep any of his blade shapes as versatile as they can be. He did a good job of, even though you have the curvature on that clip point, that tip is sitting in the center line of the scales, and it's a small blade. So if I want to use the tip to come through something, I can easily do that. Transition, if I need to pierce into a bag of potato chips, I can do that as well. Or if I need to come around something, I can do that as well. If you like a good clip point and the whole aesthetic of this one does it for you, yes, I can highly recommend it. There's no huge flaws to the knife. It's got a good sharpening choil. Even though this grind's not super high, they still manage to get that ground down nice and thin. I definitely think it's a beautiful looking fixed blade. If these scales aren't your cup of tea, of course, there's several different variations of this one. I thought they all looked beautiful. There's one with abalone scales. I think there's a black with red something or other. I think there's like 4 or 5 different options. I think one of them might be a dealer's exclusive, but they all look nice. You can't go wrong with any of them. The Jack Wolf Backwoods is coming in at $245. Yeah, it's steep, but you know, you got premium materials, you got top tier fit and finish, and you also have a collaboration with Melissa Miller. So I'm sure she gets a royalty on the design. I always love when Jack Wolf releases these fixed EDCs. I carry the first 3 often just because, I mean, look at this. Whenever they're in the sheath, it's slim, lightweight, and it buries almost totally in the pocket. For a fixed blade, that's really good. And you don't even notice it's in there. You know, it's not super bulky like most of my pocket leather sheaths are. And they'll start wearing themselves in once you start sweating on them and stuff. Everything's done very, very nicely. They burnish all the edges. You got nice stitching, good retention there. That thing's not going anywhere. That little hook grabs a hold of your pocket and it ain't budging. So that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions in particular, feel free to ask me down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. Remember, if you're interested in picking up your own Jack Wolf Backwoods, these will be dropping on December 12th, 2025 at all the Jack Wolf dealers. I will have links down below in the description, but if you're watching this before December 12th, it's going to say sold out or coming soon. So make sure it's at least December 12th. And I hope every single one of y'all is having a remarkable day today. And remember, keep these blades sharp, smile more,